Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome to Policy and Rights, the show about government policy and human rights. So, welcome back to Policy and Rights here on Depictions Media Radio. Let's look at Bangladesh today. Bangladesh that resulted in ousting Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has gotten one of their wishes. After refusing to accept a military-led government, they pushed for appointment of Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus as interim government leader, and he agreed. When students who sacrificed so much are requesting me to step in as a difficult juncture, how can I refuse? Professor Annouces, while Annouces has been landed for, or should I say, has been lauded for his pioneering use of microloans, which won him and his Grameen Bank a Nobel Prize in 2006. Ms. Nisha regarded him as a public enemy. He said currently on bail, appealing against a 6-month jail term in which he was called a politically motivated case. The 84-year-old is returning to Dhaka from Paris, where, according to his spokesperson, he is ongoing a minor medical procedure. He will accept the leadership role in Bangladesh. It just goes to show that sometimes protests can lead to great results, and why we should speak out or when we see something wrong with our governments, no matter where we are. Okay, so moving forward, in British Columbia, Bill Blair had a press conference as they're talking about defense budgets and starting a AeroSpace plant for Canada's defense in British Columbia. Boeing is going to be a big part of that, and they made a statement about that, and we'll have that recording. Also, we will have a recording on what is happening on the nationwide dental plan for Canada and how that is moving along from the Canada's Minister of Health. And we also have a recording from Premier Ford in Ontario as he's talking about improving the infrastructure of Ontario, and also he will be making a statement. He's asked a question and he makes a statement about working with the United States, and especially if Kamala Harris is elected along with her running mate, newly selected running mate Governor Walz, and how he felt about it. And simply put, Mr. Ford says they will work with anyone, and to keep in mind that Ontario is a very strong and probably one of the strongest trading partners in North America. So why don't we move forward, and let's start with Minister Blair, as he is in British Columbia talking about new projects for aerospace and defense for Canada.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Natasha Trajkovic, and I'm the site lead for Boeing Vancouver. I'm thrilled to be today's MC. We recognize that many of you have traveled great distances to be here, and we are so happy to have you all with us today. Before we get started, it is important that we acknowledge the land on which we gather is unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including Musqueam, Semiahmoo, Kwantlen, Katsi, Kwikwetlam, Kakite, and Savasan peoples. We respect the continuing connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Vancouver community. It may come as a surprise to many of you that BC, and Vancouver specifically, has played an incredibly important role in Boeing's rich history in Canada. Our work here started in March 1919 as a part of the Canadian Exposition when Bill Boeing and pilot Eddie Hubbard flew 60 letters from Vancouver to Seattle in Boeing C-700, the first international airmail to reach the United States. Now, more than a century later, this year marks the 105th anniversary of Bill Boeing's special flight that began Boeing and Canada's enduring partnership. Our site is one of 15 across Canada, and our work in Vancouver specializes in delivering solutions that improve operations management for the aerospace industry. As a leading aviation software provider, we have built our reputation on innovative IT solutions that help to streamline and optimize operations for our airline customers around the globe. For many years, we have helped businesses in the aerospace industry achieve better results with information technology products that support linear, more efficient operations, and we are thrilled to be one of the beneficiaries of today's investment stemming from the government's acquisition of the P-8A Poseidon aircraft for the Royal Canadian Air Force. With that, it's my pleasure to kick things off and introduce our first speaker, Mr. Parm Bains, Member of Parliament for Steveston, Richmond East. First elected in 2021, we are honored to have Mr. Bains with us today. His presence is particularly well suited, as I understand he had the chance to tour the P-8 at last year's Abbotsford International Air Show. Mr. Bains, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Natasha. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the welcome in the right way. We are very fortunate to be able to live, work, play, and learn on the traditional territories of the Musqueam and Coast Salish people. And, of course, it's a very big pleasure to be here this morning for this national defense announcement. The city has long been an important contributor to Canada's defense industry, stretching back to the Second World War, when Sea Island was home to a large Boeing factory producing PBY flying boats and the Blackbird Shark aircraft for the Royal Canadian Air Force. Today, the values that we fought to defend in that war, peace, democracy, and the rule of law, are once again being threatened. In these turbulent times, it's essential that members of the Canadian Armed Forces have what they need to defend Canada, Canadians, and our way of life. That's why we're so appreciative here of the work done by our friends in the aerospace industry, including here at Boeing Vancouver. And Boeing has a deep history, as Natasha mentioned, in this area that dates back for 105 years. when William Boeing flew those 60 letters from Vancouver to Seattle in 1919, the first ever international airmail delivery in North America, he was opening up an exciting new chapter in cross-border cooperation and deepening economic ties. That symbolism isn't lost to any of us here today, and I'm joined again. I wanted to mention my colleague and dear friend from the other side of Richmond, Wilson Meow, and the other side of the river, Carla Qualtrough, our Minister of Sport, who just came back from Paris, and we won a gold medal yesterday in representing Richmond, Cameron Rogers, so I wanted to mention that. So since that historic flight, Boeing has gone on to establish itself as an industry leader in civilian and military aviation in Canada, the United States, and around the globe. Your hard work, all of you here joining us, and innovation are ensuring that members of the Royal Canadian Air Force are working with the best equipment available to undertake the challenging task we ask of them. As you'll hear in a few minutes, investments in defense are also investments in Canada, and that's why I'm so glad that our major defense investments like the Canadian Multi-Mission Aircraft Project are also supporting communities across Canada, including here in the Lower Mainland. And to speak more about this is my dear friend and colleague from the Ministry of National Defense, our dear Minister Bill Blair, who talked about reinventing himself multiple times. He's served in several different portfolios for us, and he's an integral part of our government. So, Minister Blair, the podium's yours.
Well, good morning, everyone. And first of all, thank you, Parm, for that kind introduction. Bonjour tout le monde. First of all, I'd like to begin by acknowledging some of the remarkable people here today. And it's a great pleasure to be here at Boeing. I've had the opportunity to be working closely with Boeing officials, and we're joined today by Al Meinzinger, the president of Boeing Canada. We're also joined by Kyle Kusznieryk, the CEO of COTA Aviation, Kyle, and Mike Mueller, a good friend and partner to us, the president and CEO of AAC. And thank you all for being here today. It's another good day for the Canadian Armed Forces, but it's also a good day for Canadian aviation industry and aeronautics industry. And I hope it's a very good day for the people of Vancouver as well. I'm also honored to be joined, as Parm's already mentioned, by a number of my federal colleagues. Carla Qualtrough, who always comes to me to every event in British Columbia in case I'm asked a question in French, and for which I'm very grateful. Thank you very much, Carla. We're also joined by Wilson Mayo, as well as representatives of the British Columbian and Canadian aviation industries. And so it is indeed, I believe, a great day for aviation in British Columbia. When our government and our aerospace industry work together, we can deliver big results for the Canadian Armed Forces, and we can build upon a more robust industrial base right here in Canada. One important example of that is the Canadian Multi-Mission Aircraft Project. This project is going to deliver up to 16 Boeing Poseidon aircraft to the Royal Canadian Air Force. The Poseidon P-8A was the right aircraft to meet the operational requirements of the Canadian Armed Forces, which is exactly why we made this choice. In November, Canada is acquiring a new fleet of these aircraft to replace our long-serving and excellent Aurora 140s. The Poseidon is going to provide Canada with an advanced multi-mission platform that's going to enable us to conduct maritime and overland surveillance, which is going to help us keep Canada and all of our allies safe. And as our current fleet of sub-hunters approaches the end of its life, this procurement is going to allow Canada to seamlessly transition to a replacement capability, ensuring that Canada can continue to meet its domestic requirements and live up to its international obligations. And through the help of Boeing, we're getting this job done quickly too. We anticipate that the first aircraft will arrive in 2026, and the final aircraft may arrive as soon as 2028. And I don't have to tell the people in this room that for a major defense procurement, that's pretty a rapid timeline. The procurement is not only going to enhance the capabilities of the CAF, but it's going to benefit the Canadian economy, and you're going to hear more about that today. This project is going to support over 3,000 jobs and add approximately $358 million to Canada's economy every year over the next 10 years. And that's because we have developed an excellent partnership with Boeing and its various partners to commit to reinvesting our investment right here in Canada. And today, I am here to welcome Boeing's significant investments in our Canadian aerospace sector. Boeing's $48 million investment to build up research and development capacity within its Vancouver facility is going to ensure that Canada's aerospace industry remains at the cutting edge of innovation. Boeing's also investing $13 million into Indigenous-owned COTA Aviation, which is based in Parksville, BC. And this investment is going to establish a hands-on aerospace manufacturing training facility geared toward increasing the representation and participation of Indigenous peoples in aerospace and in defense. It's going to train 10 workers per year and develop a highly trained workforce that can excel in well-paying manufacturing jobs here in Canada. Workers will be trained to operate modern and advanced manufacturing equipment, including robot automation, and COTA is going to assist Indigenous learners in work placement at the end of their program. Al and Kyle, congratulations to you both on this exciting new partnership. This investment by Boeing shows that when we invest in defense, we are also investing in Canadian industry, in Canadian workers, and in the Canadian economy. And indeed, the Canadian aerospace industry is a key contributor to Canada's economy. It employs 218,000 Canadians and generates $29 billion annually towards our GDP. And as we make the largest investments in the Royal Canadian Air Force since the Second World War, and we replace all of our major fleets, those numbers can only grow. The sector brings enormous benefits to our communities, big and small, and I believe that together, working together, in partnership, we can continue to do great things. We in the Department of National Defence are committed to developing an even closer partnership with the aerospace industry, one that is based on clarity and certainty, transparency and trust. And when we set out to craft Canada's defence policy update, Our North Strong and Free, it was crucial that we listen and hear the feedback from industry directly. That's why we sat down together. We rolled up our sleeves together. We listened to each other. And I very sincerely hope that those in the industry see their advocacy reflected in our new policy. You told us that you needed a more strategic relationship with us. You told us that you needed defence procurement to be faster and more flexible. I hope we have heard you loud and clear. And it's why we've made the right decision for our new fleet of multi-mission aircraft. It's why we're reviewing our defence procurement system and putting money on the table for long-term, predictable contracts. So let's keep going. Let's prioritize Canadian innovation. Let's get new tools into the hands of our Air Force. Let's create jobs and growth in the aerospace industry and train a new generation of workers to fill those jobs and to create that growth. The procurement of Canada's incoming Poseidon fleet and today's investments being announced by Boeing are enormous steps in the right direction. And so to everyone, to Natasha, to your entire team here at Boeing Vancouver, to everyone at COTA Aviation, congratulations on today's partnership and announcement. And I'm very much looking forward to our continued work together to keep this country safe and prosperous. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister Blair. It's now my pleasure to introduce Al Meinzinger, President of Boeing Canada. Al joined the Boeing Canada team in June after a storied career in the Royal Canadian Air Force, recently serving as its longest-serving commander in the last 60 years. Al, the floor is yours.
All right, what a great room. Ministers Blair and Qualtrough, members of Parliament, Bains and Meow. I, too, want to acknowledge Mike Mueller, the President of the Aerospace Industry of Canada, my battle buddy, my new battle buddy. I'm not sure if Mr. Dave Frank is in the audience. Okay, Dave was going to join us. We'll probably see him. Just so you know, Dave leads the BC aviation entity here in the province. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here. A great crowd, esteemed guests. A special shout out to the folks in the back, the Boeing Vancouver team. Thanks to you for being here. And as well to Mr. Dorian Cota and Mr. Kyle Kusznieryk of COTA Aviation. Great to have you inside the building here in Vancouver. It's superb for me to be back here in British Columbia. In fact, I'm only 100 kilometers away from where I started my 37-year Air Force career at the Basic Officer Training School in Chilliwack, British Columbia. In fact, my son, he's just joined the military, but he's selected a little bit more of a challenging route, electing to join the infantry. So I guess, Minister Blair, the Meinzinger family continues to do its job in terms of growing the Canadian Armed Forces. Back in 1985, it was my first time in Western Canada, and I'll always remember arriving late at night on a bus from the local airport, and we arrived at the basic officer training camp. After a couple hours, platoon, and we were off for a morning run. As the sun began to rise, I was simply awestruck by the beauty and the size of the Rocky Mountains as they began to silhouette in the sky and come out from the dark. And it really was from that moment onwards where I've really cherished my opportunities to be in this great province. Having been with the Boeing company for just a couple short months, it is a unique privilege to be commemorating this milestone for our company right here in Vancouver. Of course, as was noted, we started our business here 105 years ago. The trajectory of this impressive relationship really does fill me with pride, not only as a new member of Boeing, but certainly as a Canadian citizen and as a military veteran. During my uniform career, I learned that teamwork was essential, whether that was conducting training here in Canada or conducting NORAD operations or even in the desert of Afghanistan. My early assessment in my time with Boeing is that sense of teamwork very much abounds. I think in my confidence and my sense for the future, this sense of sort of unity of purpose will continue to flourish, I believe, as we further build trust amongst ourselves. We work together as a single team with mutual respect for each other, with a shared vision of the future, supporting our customers and remaining committed to enriching our communities that we operate within. From its humble beginnings in 1919, the Boeing Canada footprint now stands at 15 sites across Canada in 7 specific provinces. Canada hosts nearly 2,000 Boeing employees, and we support over 14,000 in-country jobs. I think Canada has rightfully earned its reputation as a recognized leader in Boeing's international value chain. In fact, there are more than 500 suppliers spanning every region of this country, including many right here in British Columbia, and Canada is among Boeing's largest global supply bases. For over a century, Boeing has contributed to Canada's robust aerospace sector, and as proud as we are of our past, I am particularly excited about the future. The Government of Canada's acquisition of a fleet of P-8 Poseidon aircraft, as the Minister of Defence has indicated, will bring cutting-edge capability undoubtedly to the Canadian Armed Forces, while paving the way for decades of prosperity through the Industrial and Technological Benefits Program, better known as ITBs, as Jeff and Alex know very well. These ITBs will be delivered by our Canadian industry partners and will translate into jobs, into innovation, I would add excitement, and economic growth across our magnificent country. Today's $61 million ITB investment announcement is, I believe, the latest demonstration of Boeing's commitment to Canada. If I may just reinforce what Minister Blair indicated, Boeing's $13 million investment in COTA will equip this great company, led by Dorian and Kyle, in enhancing their capability and their capacity to build components for both the commercial and the defense fleets. Additionally, Boeing will fund COTA's efforts to establish a dedicated hands-on aerospace manufacturing and training facility, building strength for the future. And I'm tremendously excited about that particular mission. Boeing Vancouver, one of the largest Boeing sites in the country, helps aerospace businesses with leading-edge information technology products, systems developed right here, right in this building with the team in the back. And these systems, these digital tools, are used to support aircraft maintenance and flight data analytics efforts. And thanks to you, Natasha, for what you and your mighty team do here in Vancouver. Our $48 million investment will fund a suite of research and development technologies at Boeing Vancouver. These will help support Boeing programs, they will provide project management tools, and they will build on analytics to optimize aircraft maintenance, sustainability, and performance both for crewed and uncrewed aircraft. In addition to Boeing being active in the business sector, I am particularly proud and pleased that we're also very much focused in giving back to our local communities. In fact, the Boeing team here in province supports entities such as the Citadel Canine Society, Covenant House Vancouver, Science World, and the Veterans Transition Network. The progress and growth of the Boeing partnerships we are witnessing here today are only, they're magical, and they will bring prosperity undoubtedly to this province. But they will also contribute to the advancement of aerospace excellence around the globe. In closing, let me underscore how immensely proud we are in Boeing to be part of this journey in helping to shape the future of aviation for generations to come. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you all. I'm pleased to introduce our final speaker today, Kyle Kusznieryk, CEO of COTA Aviation. COTA is proud to be an Indigenous-owned company based in Parksville, BC. As a company that values cultural diversity and respect, COTA works with gratitude on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish nations. We are happy to have several members of the COTA team here with us today. Kyle?
Thanks, everybody. It's with great gratitude that I can announce and accept this significant investment from Boeing. Through Canada's ITB program, as Al's mentioned, and Minister Blair, this is through the acquisition of the advanced P-8 Poseidon aircraft. Boeing will enable COTA to purchase advanced manufacturing equipment, develop an aerospace skills training center as well. This will not only support COTA's employment growth, but aid in the development of BC's aerospace industry as a whole. With this investment, we'll purchase new production machinery, meet growing client demands, and continue to bolster our core value of innovation and excellence in manufacturing. The investment dedicated to building an aerospace manufacturing skills training program will enable us to upskill, train, and foster new generational talent. The skills training program is intended to provide high-impact career jobs with minimal barriers. The program not only enhances our internal capabilities, but contributes to the broader development of aerospace workforce. We're proud to be part of Canada's ITB program, and the investment is a clear indication of the program's success. The investment framework and skills development pillars have been instrumental in providing us with the support and resources needed to grow and thrive. This program is a model of how strategic investments can drive innovation and economic development. Working with the Boeing team has been a pleasure. Their dedication to generating meaningful partnerships and real, tangible outcomes has been refreshing. I specifically wish to thank both Jeff and Alex for sharing our vision and making this truly possible. In closing, I want to thank Boeing overall, dedication from the federal ministry as well to developing the ITB program, as we can see that there's clear, concise benefits as it goes. We look forward, and thank you all for your dedication. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to hear now from the Minister of Health as he's talking about Canada, a nationwide Canada dental plan.
By acknowledging that we are gathered here today on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. Welcome. My name is Dr. Melvin Lee, and I'm the owner dentist here at Dentistry at Bank Street Professional Center. Thank you for being here with us today. I'm happy to be joined by the Honorable Mark Holland, Federal Minister of Health. We are pleased to be with you for this announcement, which will provide an update of the claim-by-claim processing for the Canadian Dental Care Plan, which started last month on July the 8th. The CDCP is one of the biggest improvements we've seen to the Canadian healthcare system in decades. Our clinic is very proud to participate in the program and help more people in our community gain access to the oral health care that they desperately need. Please note that there will be an opportunity for media to ask questions following the announcement. Now it is my tremendous honor to introduce you today to Honorable Mark Holland, Minister of Health. Minister Holland was first elected as the Member of Parliament for Ajax in 2004. As a Member of Parliament, Minister Holland has served as Leader of the Government in the House of Commons, as Chief Government Whip, as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness. In both public and private roles, Minister Holland has backed health-related initiatives. He served as Executive Director of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada's Ontario Mission, as well as its National Director of Children and Youth. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Honourable Mark Holland, Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee. It's a wonderful pleasure to be here today. Let me also thank Dr. Pham, who's with us today, for all of your incredible work here in the clinic and all the folks that you're seeing. I also want to take, and you're going to be able to hear from Odina Love, who's the CEO of the Dental Hygienists Association, as well as Kelly Mansfield, the Canadian Dental Assistants Association, Michael Vogt, who's from the Denturists Association of Canada. And folks, we have great news today. This is news that I think blows the front door off the barn. We have been working hard with providers across the country, having conversations about them with folks like Melvin and like Dr. Pham around how we create a program that works for patients and for providers. Today, I'm here to say that nearly 450,000 Canadians have received care. There's 2.3 million Canadians who have signed up. And as a result of working with providers to create an alternate claim-by-claim pathway, we've seen an explosion in provider numbers. More than 6,500 new providers have participated in the program using claim-by-claim. That takes us to 19,000 providers across the country who are providing services to Canadians where they need it across the country. That represents 75% of oral health professionals. To break it down for dentists specifically, that number's over 70%. So this is huge news. Now, we're not stopping here. Obviously, we're working with the associations to make sure that we answer every hygienist, denturist, and a dentist question, that we work on any obstacles that we have. We're not stopping until we get to 100%. 75% is huge. Think about it. Just a month ago, before we launched the alternative pathway, we were at about 50% of providers. So in a period of 3 months to be at 75% is incredibly important. But let's talk about what does that mean in a practical sense. You know, as I've traveled the country and I've had an opportunity to talk to people in different parts of the country, let me start here with Melvin. Melvin, you and I had a conversation just before the press conference. Melvin was saying to me, you know, he's a golf enthusiast. He's got a better game than I do. But Melvin met a 15-year-old who asked him, like, why is oral health just not part of our healthcare system? Why are there people who can't get access to the oral health that they need? That is a profound question. And it's a question of what kind of country we live in. We want to live in a country where seniors are able to get the care that they need. You know, I think of the conversation that I had not too far from here in Vanier. It was in the early days of launching the program. It was with denturists who were brothers, Dan and Jack in Vanier. And the denturists were talking to me about the clients that they were seeing who had 30 and 40-year-old dentures. One lady, 42 years without a pair of dentures in her mouth. What she was left with was plastic plates. And I talk about this often because it sticks with me. When Dan and Jack were talking to me about the senior who was forced to use these plastic plates to chew their food with no teeth in their mouth, it just profoundly strikes me that this is not the country we want to live in. And imagine the sense of dignity, the sense of being that comes from having those teeth placed in your mouth. When I was at the Faculty of Dentistry and I had a chance to talk with Ryland is a dental student. He talked about a couple of things. He talked about the pain of somebody with an abscess in their mouth and the inability of them to get care. But he also talked about people who came in and were able to get fitted for dentures and how they came in with their best clothes and they had those dentures placed in their mouth and 10, 15 years were washed off their face, and how excited they were for family photographs, how excited they were to go into a job interview. This is fundamentally the dignity that we're trying to talk about. You know, and I heard that again from Navjeet when I was in Windsor, who runs a mobile hygienist clinic. And Navjeet talking about the people that she could go in different communities and how they felt seen and cared for. Seniors feeling like somebody cares about me. You know, and Melvin, you talk about when you were a young person, you didn't have access to oral health care. That was your passion for entering this profession. And I want to say how moved I've been as I've gone and had the opportunity to talk with denturists and with hygienists and dentists to hear their stories about why they want to provide care. And that's what this program is about. We have 9 million Canadians to get to. We have 25% more oral health professionals to get there. But today is an important day in our progress to make oral health a part permanently of Canada's healthcare system. And with that, Melvin, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Melvin. Again, thank you so much to the minister and also the government for starting this, basically, for me, once-in-a-lifetime healthcare initiative. Now I'd like to introduce to the podium the president of the Canadian Dental Assistants Association, Kelly Mansfield.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Lee. On behalf of the Canadian Dental Assistants Association, we're very happy to be here today for this fantastic announcement. I'm sure we can all agree, oral health is essential to overall well-being. The Canadian Dental Care Plan will provide dental care access to nearly 9 million eligible Canadians. This has the potential to not only enhance the quality of life for these Canadians, but it also has the potential to reduce some of the burden on the broader healthcare system, where people often turn to when they have no other options for their dental health needs. The feedback we are hearing from our CDAA members regarding the administration and clinical implementation of the CDCP has been both positive and rewarding. Several members have shared personal stories of how the CDCP has enriched their well-being and happiness. Several members, for example, one member's grandparent who hadn't visited a dentist in over 20 years, despite struggling with ill-fitting dentures that impacted their ability to eat, recently received a new set of dentures through the CDCP participating provider. This care, previously unaffordable, has significantly improved their daily life. Dental assistants, who are essential members of the oral health team, often lack coverage for themselves and their families. For them, the CDCP represents a meaningful opportunity for them and their families to potentially receive the dental care benefits they have dedicated themselves to providing for others. Consequently, widespread acceptance of the implementation of the CDCP may also contribute to reducing the dental assisting shortage across Canada by attracting new individuals to this vital profession. A longtime friend of mine, a single mother working without health benefits, prioritized her child's health over her own, like many parents do, due to financial constraints. When she finally visited a dentist, no longer able to ignore the pain she was experiencing, she was diagnosed with oral cancer, which she battled for a few years before sadly passing away at 57. Given that dentists perform oral cancer screening during routine checkups, access to the CDCP might have saved her life. The Canadian Cancer Society estimates that in 2024, approximately 8,100 Canadians will be diagnosed with some form of oral cancer, and 2,100 of those diagnosed will die. With increased access to oral care through the CDCP, oral health professionals can potentially reduce the negative outcomes of oral cancer and other oral diseases through early diagnosis and treatment. As dental assistants, we provide a crucial role on the oral health team, serving as a second set of hands in four-handed dentistry. Furthermore, the scope of practice for Level 2 dental assistants permits them to perform most preventive treatments under the supervision of a dentist. And like all health professionals, oral health providers have an ethical duty to provide the best access to care for our patients. The CDCP presents an opportunity for us all to provide this care for Canadians. We encourage all Canadians to review the CDCP eligibility requirements and apply online to access oral health benefits for you and your family members without delay. Along with our oral health professional partners, the Canadian Dental Assistants Association is proud to support this critical program as it aligns with our vision for a strong and safe oral health care system for all Canadians. We strongly encourage all dentists to participate in the CDCP to help eligible Canadians benefit from this program. Thank you.
Okay, so I think now we're ready for questions. Unless I'm, Matt, I'm turning it over to you. Okay, fantastic.
Welcome everyone. Bienvenue à toutes et à tous. I'm Minister Holland's press secretary. Je suis l'attaché de presse du ministre Holland. We will begin with questions in the room before taking questions from Zoom. Please state your name, media outlet, and whom your question is directed to. You will have the opportunity to ask one question with one follow-up. Nous commencerons par les questions dans la salle avant de prendre les questions de Zoom. Veuillez indiquer votre nom, votre média et à qui vous posez votre question. Vous aurez la possibilité de poser une question avec un suivi. Let's proceed to the first question. Nous allons passer à la première question.
Rachel Aiello with CTV News. There have been examples of providers describing situations where patients are... Rachel Aiello, CTV News. There have been examples of providers talking about instances where patients have learned that they might not have full coverage or the entire dental care program might not be quite free. So as this program continues to expand, does the government need to do more to improve the communication around this so patients going ahead know what they are and aren't going to get covered?
Yeah, it's a totally fair question. And I think that, Rachel, there are folks getting care all across the country that's deeply affordable. But it's not always free. There are some instances where there's a difference between the fees, the fee guide that we have and the fees that the professional is charging. So there can be a differential there. So I've been very clear throughout my time as minister that difference exists. It's called equal billing. And it's important that people understand that. And for the 450,000 people who've gotten care, they've been able to go in, have that conversation. They get an estimate of what the work is and what is covered. And in the vast preponderance, it is covered. It makes it deeply affordable. I was talking to somebody who had to get 4 root canals. That just is impossible to pay out of their own pocket. And there was a small cost, but compared to what that cost would have been without coverage, it would have been totally prohibitive. And what it would have meant is that person would have lost those teeth. So that's the objective of this program, is to make sure that everybody has access to affordable care. And I think one of the things that works, and one of the reasons why you've seen such an explosion of provider numbers, I mean, this is it certainly exceeds anything I could have hoped for in the first 3 months to have this level of participation, is because it's a genuine partnership. That there is a lot of times in other oral health plans, if you're an oral health provider and you're in a different community, your circumstances can be totally different in Corner Brook than they could be in downtown Winnipeg. And this plan allows you to have autonomy and recognizes that you're going to have to look at that situation. And that's part of what this provides. And I think that flexibility is a great meeting of both respecting that professional independence and making sure that care is deeply affordable.
Just to follow up on another topic, there's been conversation in recent days about the use of bot farms on social media. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, is that something you're concerned about heading into the next election? And do you think the federal government or the Liberal Party needs to do more to try to combat the prevalence of these bot accounts?
Well, I don't know about you, Rachel, but I mean, you go online, I don't stay very long. It's pretty toxic. And we wouldn't talk to each other on the street like that. And there are certainly forces in the world that are autocratic and seek to undermine democracy, who want to fuel divisions that are between us and get us to talk to each other in incredibly disrespectful and cruel ways. I think whether or not it's a bot or a human, when somebody is speaking without humanity, when somebody is hiding behind, username 12768, and they give you their opinion, and that opinion is toxic and makes people feel bad, then we have to think about as a society why that's allowed. It took us a long time with newspapers and television to figure out, how it worked. And there were some dark forces that used those new mediums in very nefarious ways. And I think we're seeing that here. There's too much toxic negativity. An opinion is fine, but the cruelty with which it's being unleashed should be rejected. And I think we have to be very circumspect, unfortunately, about what we see online. There are forces that are running these bots and trying to overwhelm the internet to give an appearance of a particular opinion or a consensus around something that simply isn't true, and at worst is seeking to undermine our democracy. Yeah, we can pass it back there, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen in the States quite the turnaround the Democrats have had. They made a major change at the top of the ticket and they've turned their fortunes around significantly. I'm sure you don't want to see the Prime Minister leave, but do you think the Liberal Party needs to make a major change to their program to see a similar turnaround in the fortunes that you have relative to the Democrats have been able to do in the U.S.?
My instinct is we are in very difficult times. These are the most difficult times that humanity has lived through, certainly since the Second World War. People are tired. People came out of the pandemic exhausted, and then they were dealing with a war in Ukraine, and then they're dealing with global inflation, and then they're dealing with the tragedy that's unfolding in Gaza, and it just seems way too much. And, I get an opportunity to talk with my G7 partners. We're not alone. This phenomenon is absolutely everywhere. What I think we're seeing in different parts of the world is really an ignition of hope again. That, maybe the darkest days aren't all that are left for us. Maybe that there are things that are good in this world. And maybe the time that we're in, as tough as it is an opportunity to make things better than they have been. I had an opportunity for my mom's 80th birthday to be away and be in the Olympics and be able to watch Canadians compete. I had an opportunity to watch a movie that I thought was a good idea to watch with my stepchild called Bring It On. Is from the year 2000. You watch that movie, you want to go back to that, right? Like, you watch that movie, you go, what was wrong with us? So we've come a long way. But look, it's a lot easier to self-fear. It's a lot easier to say, doesn't things suck? Doesn't it feel awful? And just to wallow in that. And that's what Pierre Poilievre offers, an opportunity to wallow in all that's bad and broken. And yeah, it's a lot harder to stand up here. It's a lot harder over the last number of years to work with people to say, let's do something totally new. Let's take all of these 9 million people who don't have access to care, and let's fight every single day to make sure they get it. 450,000 people have care today that didn't have before. There is something fundamentally important about that. And instead of Pierre Poilievre, going on about what's broken, what is he going to do about the 9 million people who don't have oral health care? What is he going to do about the cost of diabetes in this country? Diabetes costs this country over $30 billion a year. What's his plan? We have one. What is he going to do about contraceptives for women to make sure that they have access to the reproductive medicines that they need? They got no plan for that. So I think Canadians are fundamentally fair. And I think what they aren't looking for is a new slogan or, a new twist of phrase. They're looking for people to deliver. And what I and my colleagues and the Prime Minister have been doing is every single day working to deliver. And I think today is an incredibly important proof point in that.
How, after 9 years in government, can the Liberals in the next election convince Canadians that they are the party of hope?
I think by demonstrating change, by demonstrating delivering results. I can only speak, I can speak for a lot of areas, but I'll just speak in the areas in which I just did. When I go to the doors, I really believe there are two fundamental messages in the next election. The first one is take what you got, maybe, don't hope for more. If you're a senior, don't hope that you're going to get oral health care or your diabetes medication. That's too much to hope for. Hope is made real by results. And I'll give you an example of the point that I'm making. I was in Kingston. I was at a town hall with a large group of seniors. And there was a senior, she's loving the dental program. This dental program is amazing. And another senior, I hate it. It's awful. And I said, okay, well, why do you hate it? She said, well, because now I've got a crappy dental care plan that was from my employer, and I'm stuck with it. And now my friend next door has got a better plan than me. That's the escalator of hope. Somebody who was the luckiest senior in her friend group is now the unlucky one. And so they see that things are getting better. I think what's tough is when we've gone through so much as a world, believing that things can get better is hard. You got to see that tangible proof. That's what we got to do over the next year. Over the next year, in my portfolio specifically, I've got to make sure the 9 million people who don't have care, that I have done everything, that I've worn my shoes to the ground to make sure that every person who doesn't have care gets care, or in diabetes medication, or in improving our healthcare system, improving primary care. I could go on and on and on in data. I think that fundamentally is what people are going to care about. Right now, folks are not focused on an election. They're focused on the fact that the world is tough. And, we can meet that by telling them, yeah, it's tough, and hold a mirror to it and make them feel worse. Or we can talk to them about solutions. That's a harder path. It's a more difficult one, but I think it's the one ultimately that will be more rewarding.
Hi, Minister Holland. Marina von Stackelberg with CBC News. The Conservatives have put out a release about the dental care plan this morning, calling it a program riddled with chaos, backlogs, red tape, and higher costs. They do point to a survey, an online survey that the Canadian Dental Association did, which showed that nearly half of seniors that they surveyed felt that there was miscommunications, confusion over how the plan worked. So what is your response to what the Conservatives have to say here?
Well, Marina, it's rich, right? The Conservatives saying, there's confusion about this program. There's chaos about the only chaos of the program is from the Conservatives, right? The Conservatives saying there are all these problems. I've just listened to what you just asked me and put that against the reality of what I just said. This is the largest federal program ever launched. In 3 months, 450,000 people have got care. To put that in stark terms, that's 450,000 people who did not have access to care before. This is people who have teeth in their mouth as a result of this program existing. So it's a little rich to me that the Conservatives' chief argument against this program is there's confusion and misinformation when they are the originators in chief of that misinformation, right? So I would say to them, look, fine, you want to be against this program. Okay, then be clear about it and be honest about it. The Conservatives have gone from saying it doesn't exist to saying it's too confusing. If their health critic wants to debate with me on the merits of how confusing it is, welcome. You won't find him doing it, right? What's confusing about it? It's easier to use than private insurance. Providers are getting paid in less than 48 hours. I defy you to find me providers who are using the program that are having problems with the program. But I can find Conservatives who are desperate for it to not work. And I think it says something fundamental about their interest. Their interest here is a political one. And it goes back to the question that I came before, and it's an instinct I have about Canada. I think this country is interested in results. I think they're interested in seeing us lift Canadians up. I don't think they're interested in finding divisions and trying to create problems. And what I think has been able to work, and you look at the bilateral agreements that we've done with provinces and territories, we were able on aging with dignity and on working together and on primary care, we were able to get agreements with every province and every territory in a spirit of cooperation. I think if the Conservatives want to win the next election, they should have the best ideas. If they want to win the next election, they should show how they're going to make the country better than we're making the country. But trying to set fire to things that are working because they're afraid politically it's going to be bad news for them, I just think that's, well, frankly, disgusting.
What do you make of the NDP's call to the election commissioner to investigate what's behind the social media post that followed Pierre Poilievre's rally in Kirkland Lake last week? What do you make of that call?
I think the NDP is certainly free to do what they're going to do. I think there's a lot of questions that have to be asked about the forces that Pierre Poilievre is playing with. There does seem to be, at its heart, an interest to light things up, to create more problems and find divisions. I don't know what's going on behind a lot of what's going on there. To be honest with you, I try to stay off social media. What I try to do is wake up in the morning and go, how do I make dental care work? How do I get an agreement on pharmacare? So that's really where I'm going to stay focused. Those are fair and legitimate questions, but probably I don't have really a lot to add more than that on it.
There's someone who wants this.
from my colleague Laura Osman. Are you still consulting with the dental associations to develop the pre-authorization process?
Absolutely. So the Dental Association, I had a conversation yesterday with the head of the Canadian Dental Association. They have stated that they've received a legal opinion that they can't be either for or against the Canadian dental care plan. So they're going to have sort of a neutral position going forward. But we're working with them and all providers, so the hygienists and the denturists and certainly the dental assistants to make sure that the pre-authorization process works. You would have heard that the process we have now has been very user-friendly, and we want to continue that. We want to make it as simple as possible for providers to use. So we have working groups that are chewing through this, and we're engaging all of the different associations and are going to continue to do that. And we're on track in November to be able to deliver that pre-authorization process. That's incredibly important because we have a lot of folks with more complicated oral health needs who are going to need to access that to get the care they need.
And let's listen to what Mr. Ford has to say from Ontario as he's speaking about his province in Canada and how strong of a trading partner they are and how it's only going to get stronger as they improve their infrastructure.
For many thousands of years, Indigenous people have lived on these lands and cared for them, and they continue to do so today. We're grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on this land and to give our respect to the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people of Mississauga and Ontario. Moving forward, our government is committed to honor the principles of truth and reconciliation, while we also focus on priorities that the Indigenous communities are asking for, including the construction of more affordable housing. That's why it is such an honor to welcome Premier Ford and Minister Surma and all our colleagues here today for this important announcement. No Premier and no Minister of Infrastructure has ever done more for Mississauga. We built the largest long-term care home in Ontario at the Wellbrook Place, which opened last year. We're completely rebuilding the Mississauga Hospital, which will become the largest hospital in Canadian history. We're building the Hazel McCallion line, which now includes the downtown loop. These are all historic game-changing investments for Mississauga and for Peel. This is one of the fastest growing regions in North America. We're adding over 20,000 new homes along the waterfront at the Brightwater and Lakeview Village. This includes thousands of new, affordable, and attainable homes within steps of transit, including a new GO Transit station on the Lakeshore West Line to offer more transit options to get more cars off the road and more people out of gridlock. But we know that the new water and wastewater infrastructure is critical to support this growth. The investment today will expand and improve the GE Booth wastewater treatment plant and will help get shovels in the ground to build over 46,000 new homes. I look forward to working together with our new Mayor, Carolyn Parrish, and our partners across Ontario to help more young families achieve the dream of home ownership here in Mississauga and across Ontario. And with that, it's my pleasure to invite Colin Best, the president of AMO, up to the podium. Thank you.
Good job.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this morning's event. Municipalities share the province's commitment to getting more homes built. We know Ontario's needs more housing of all kinds for all income levels, and we know that a critical part of making this happen is investing in the infrastructure that supports growth. New homes need to be supported by transit, hospitals, schools, sewers, energy, flood management, parks, and of all things that make Ontario a safe, sustainable, productive, and affordable place to live. Municipalities own and manage nearly $500 billion worth of infrastructure and support Ontario's communities. Each year we dedicate almost $9 billion in municipal funds to these systems to top up provincial and federal contributions. Municipalities are doing everything within their power to meet provincial housing targets. We know these targets are ambitious, and they need to be. Municipal governments are equally ambitious and will do everything we can to help Ontario meet its housing goals. Funding for water, wastewater, and infrastructure is a number of one thing that municipalities need to make housing targets a reality. Today's investment will help municipalities across the province get one step closer to their ambitious goals. The province and municipal governments know that investing in communities is an investment in Ontario's prosperity. By working in partnership across all levels of government and with broader housing standards, we can solve Ontario's housing crisis. And now introduce Minister Surma.
Thank you, Colin, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be here in Mississauga today with Premier Ford, MPP Cuzzetto, and Peel members to share more about our government's work to build Ontario and unlock housing opportunities across the province. Infrastructure is a critical part of our day-to-day lives. We use highways and public transit to get to work, we drop our kids off at schools, and we take those that need care to hospitals and long-term care homes. Infrastructure connects people to the services they rely on daily. As Ontario's population continues to grow, the demand for infrastructure to support these services will only increase. That's why our government is moving forward on delivering the most ambitious capital plan in Ontario's history. We are investing more than $190 billion over the next 10 years to build and expand highways, transit, build more homes, connect people to high-speed internet, and other critical infrastructure that will reduce congestion, bring housing closer to transit hubs, and support growing communities. Ontario's small, rural, and northern communities are essential to the growth and prosperity of the province. We are providing direct and stable funding for hundreds of these communities through the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund to help them renew, rehabilitate, and modernize critical infrastructure such as roads, bridges, water, and wastewater facilities. This year, we will continue to provide $400 million under this program. As communities grow, they also need access to reliable high-speed internet. Our government is bringing the reliable high-speed internet access to every community across the province by the end of 2025. This is supported by a historic investment of nearly $4 billion, which represents the largest single investment in high-speed internet in any province by any government in Canadian history. And as part of this investment, we are connecting 539,000 homes and premises. As we invest $70 billion in public transit, we're also building transit-oriented communities. These communities will bring more housing, jobs, retail, and public amenities close to transit. Work is already underway to deliver transit-oriented communities at 12 future stations along the new Ontario Line, Yonge North Subway Extension, and Scarborough Subway Extension, which will create about 54,000 new residential units, including affordable housing options. Having a strong infrastructure system is the first step in delivering the housing Ontario needs. Homes cannot be built without connecting them to drinking water and wastewater systems. That is why we quadrupled the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund in the budget. We've heard from municipalities that one of the biggest barriers to building housing is the lack of underground water infrastructure and wastewater treatment facilities, like the GE Booth Water Resource Recovery Facility that we're here at. We have listened, and we are supporting our municipalities and builders to build more homes. I would now like to invite Premier Ford to the podium to share next steps. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be out here, and thank you, Kinga, for that introduction. And it's great to be back in the beautiful city of Mississauga with a great mayor, Mayor Parrish. Great to see you today, and we look forward to working with you and continue building building this beautiful city. Here alongside, as you just heard from, Minister Surma and Minister Sarkaria, Minister Williams, and MPPs Rudy Cuzzetto, Amarjot Sandhu, Hardeep Grewal, Sharif Sabawe, and Graham McGregor. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge and welcome Guelph Mayor Cam Guthrie. You know, Cam, you're a champion out in Guelph, just like the mayor is here in Mississauga, and we just look forward to working with you. And Colin, I want to thank you and look forward to seeing you over in Ottawa at AMO there. Stephen Dasko, I should say, as well. And all the elected officials, Nadia from the Residential and Civil Construction Alliance of Ontario, Andrew from the Residential Construction Council of Ontario, and representing from the Ontario Big City Mayors, Ontario Home Builders Association, and the Ontario Sewer and Water Main Construction Association. Thank you all for joining us. That was quite a group there. I also want to thank everyone at the GE Booth Water Resource Recovery Facility for hosting us today. Facilities like this one are so important to all of our communities. We count on them in our homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses to provide clean water and drinking water for cooking and bathing and ensure wastewater is treated properly. And I want to thank all the workers here for the important work you do. And to the workers, I'll tell you, I think the world of you. And if it wasn't for you folks, the systems wouldn't be working. So we're very, very grateful. Here in Peel Region and across the province, we know we need to build more homes, and we know that maintaining and expanding our water, wastewater infrastructure is critical to getting those homes built. That's why, as Minister Surma mentioned, in our most recent budget, we made historic investments in infrastructure funding, including our Housing Enabling Water System Fund. This fund is going to help municipalities repair, rehabilitate, and expand drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure. Importantly, it's going to help get shovels in the ground faster. So today, we're excited to announce that the first round of investments from this fund, a total of $970 million, has been allocated and will be distributed to 54 projects across 60 municipalities. All told, this round of funding will help build more than 500,000 new homes in communities across Ontario. This investment includes $35 million for Peel Region to support the expansion of this facility. By getting these upgrades in place, we will help get 47,000 homes built right here in Peel. And folks, we're not stopping there. We've been blown away by the enthusiastic response to the first round of funding, and we're stepping it up. On August 14th, we will open applications for a second round of funding with $250 million to continue helping municipalities get shovels in the ground. This brings the total amount in the fund to more than $1.2 billion. And this coming weeks, we will announce more details about how municipalities can apply for funding from the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, which we announced in our most recent budget. Because we know that working with municipalities and building infrastructure is critical to building the homes people need and deserve. Our record investments in housing enabling infrastructure will lay the groundwork to tackle Ontario's housing supply crisis and will help make the dream of home ownership a reality for more families across Ontario. Working with our municipal partners, we're going to get it done. Once again, thank you all for joining us, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you so much.
We will now open the floor for questions from the media. Please come to the mic and state your name and outlet. Just a reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. First question.
Hi, Premier Jack Allen from the Trillium. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
Good.
I wanted to ask a couple questions about some docs we've received. So first is to do with the 413. Your government has cited increased congestion on the 401 in the coming decades as a reason to build it. But we've received some modeling that shows the 413 will not noticeably change travel times on the 401. So I'm wondering how that squares with how you've talked about the new highway.
Well, again, the 413 is critical. I don't know if you've ever driven down the 400 lately and getting from point A to the point B and crisscrossing top of the cities there. It's absolutely critical. So I'm not too sure what dock you're talking about. I'll have to read it. But the more highways, the better it is. Not mentioning the 413, but the Bradford bypass as well. And we're also building Highway 7 from Kitchener to Guelph. And I know the mayor is extremely happy that he's going to have another highway going into his town. And by the way, Guelph has the lowest unemployment in the entire province. He's doing a great job. He's creating the environment and conditions for people to invest from all over the world into Guelph, along with our great mayor from Mississauga is doing the same thing.
Okay, we've also received some data from MMAH suggesting that there could be as many as hundreds of thousands of people who are homeless in Ontario. To give some examples, the data shows that wait lists for supportive housing are up to 7 years long, and that 30,000 new supportive housing units are needed. It clearly shows that homelessness has gotten rapidly worse over the past few years. So I'm wondering what your plan is to tackle it.
Well, we're going to continue building homes. We're putting record investments in homeless and in shelter, unlike any government has ever contributed towards that. And we're going to continue building. But the best way to get people, upper hand is basically get them a good paying jobs. There's still over 230,000 jobs available. So, if they're healthy, they should be working. If they aren't healthy, we will take care of them. I've always had that philosophy.
Hey, good morning. Premier Colin DeMello from Global News.
Hi, Colin.
Hope you're doing well. You sound like you have a cold.
No, I'm pretty good.
You're good? Okay,
I'm feeling like a champ.
Cool.
I drank some of the drinking water behind me there.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. So this week marks the one-year anniversary since the Auditor General released the Greenbelt investigation, and we know everything that came out of that. I'm just wondering, 1 year later, what have you and your government learned from that entire ordeal?
Well, again, I think we're well on our way moving forward. We made that decision not to move forward with it, and we're going to keep moving forward, building homes everywhere other than the Greenbelt. So that's it.
So can I ask, other than what you just said, that you don't want to build in the Greenbelt anymore, what concrete steps has your government taken to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again?
Well, there's 14 or 15 recommendations. We've taken 14 of them, implemented them, and we're working on the 15th one.
Hi, Premier. Barbara with Queen's Park Briefing. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask you again on the Greenbelt report that was released a year ago. Recently, in the last shuffle, you chose Steve Clark as your government House leader. I was wondering why was this decision made, despite of everything?
Because he's one of the most experienced and qualified members we have. He knows Queen's Park inside and out. He's a very credible individual, and I support him 1,000%.
Thank you, Premier. On a different topic, recently Tim Walz was nominated to run with Kamala Harris. I understand he has some ties with Ontario. I was just wondering, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I was happy as punch to see the governor get nominated as vice president, and we'll see, running mate, I should say. And it's all about building relationships. We've had numerous governors up here. We share a lot in common. When we sat down, we tossed the football around a little bit in my office. We gave him a CFL football, but talking about buy North America, he understands that, and I get it. During the election, I'm just as bad as everyone else saying buy Ontario, and yes, go out there and buy Ontario made or Canadian made, and they're buy USA, but we're stronger together. I explained to him that we're the third largest trading partner in the world. Ontario is. We do approximately $500 billion, a two-way trade. We're the number one trading partner to 17 states, number two to 13 other states, and we're the number one customer of those states. We're an economic powerhouse, folks, in North America. They realize it, no matter if it's manufacturing or if it's energy or mining. We're much stronger together, and the governor, we're going to work well together if he gets elected. I'll work with anyone. I don't care, Republican, Democrat. I don't care who's in there. We'll work with them.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.